Welcome to the All Booked podcast, where librarians Ashley, Justin, Brittin, and Rosa talk about what they're reading and adding to each other's TBR list.
Count me down, Olivia.
Ready?
Yeah.
iCarly style.
Okay.
In 5, 4, 3, 2.
Alrighty, folks, and welcome back to All Book Club. We are your Ridgewood Public Library librarians, and we are back for another episode. This is Season 5, Episode 2, and it is set to drop on November 6th. And to change it up a little bit, Ashley is going to kick us off.
All
Go
right,
for it.
starting off with creepy and thriller and all the things that you look forward to when you hear my recommendations. So I know that this is dropping in November, but Middle of the Night by Riley Sager was a perfect October read. It does take place in July, but the story is very atmospheric, very creepy, very paranormal, if you will, but it was very, very thrilling, like edge of your seat kinds of stuff. So it is very much realistic. There's nothing really out there until you start getting into the paranormal side of things. So if you like the mystery and like thriller and a whodunit kind of thing, but you like there being a possible paranormal answer, this is the perfect book for you. So Ethan is your main character, and he is in his 40s, and he returns to his childhood home. So his parents are moving to Florida. They're retiring to Florida, and he moves back to Hemlock Circle. It is a cul-de-sac, and it hasn't changed in years. It is the same people have lived there since he was a child, and it's a perfect, very idyllic kind of little neighborhood. So you think that it's idyllic, but then you realize his history, Ethan's history in this little neighborhood of his. So he, leading up to this, his move back home, he's been haunted by these recurring nightmares where he wakes up in like a cold sweat, and it's the same thing that happens over and over and over again. And the dream is a reminder of what had happened 30 years ago in his backyard with his best friend Billy, when in the middle of the night, Billy was abducted.
Oh, my gosh.
He woke up, and so Ethan tells a story of waking up to, like, the sun and the breeze just, like, resting on him, and it was the last time that he actually slept through the night, because when he woke up, there was a slit in the tent, and Billy was gone. That was it. There's no footsteps. There's nothing.
Oh,
He left his shoes even.
He left his shoes. So, and everybody, once Billy is missing and everybody's like kind of in a panic, they're like, you have to remember something. Doesn't remember anything. So then that begins his insomnia. So he basically wakes up in the middle of the night, the hours of 2 to 5, basically he doesn't sleep. So he's up all the time. But he's haunted by these dreams. So then he returns back to the crime scene, essentially. And he has this overwhelming sense that Billy's there. And he doesn't have a way to describe. Billy was never found. So doesn't know what happened to him. They don't know if he had died, if he was killed. They don't know. But Billy never returned. So he's back in the house, and he just gets this weird sense that Billy's presence is in the backyard. So his old babysitter's father one night said the same exact thing. He said that Billy boy is back.
Oh, my gosh.
So everybody's like, what are you talking about? So one of the neighbors had become a police officer, and he tells them that Billy did return, but as remains. So they found Billy's remains in the woods. Oh. So now the question is, what exactly are they sensing? So Ethan goes and buys a state-of-the-art camera to set up in his backyard that will take pictures if anything sets off the motion detector. So middle of the night, he gets pings to his phone saying that there's movement happening in his backyard. He doesn't see anything on his phone, but something had to set off the camera. So he's like very freaked out about this, and he's trying to dive into like, well, what could have happened? And the story goes back and forth between when they were children and now that they're adults. So they're trying to piece together, the reader gets what actually happened when they were kids, and then them trying to piece together all of the missing pieces from in between.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like
it's very, very good. So what happened 30 years prior is the day before the abduction, all of the kids went into the woods. So the woods neighbor something called the Hawthorne Institute.
There's always an
There's
institute.
always an institute. A very secret, very wealthy school. So it's a huge mystery. No one knows exactly like what happens at this school, other than the fact that it's been around forever. The people who own the school are very wealthy, and it's very secretive. Like whoever goes there, they don't say anything. So anyway, 40-year-old Ethan decides, I think that there's something related to the Hawthorne Institute and Billy's disappearance. It has to be. So he starts to investigate this property, though he's not supposed to. So the property, or the mansion that's the old school, is now used for like wedding venues and stuff like that. So he pretends he wants to check out the property, and that's his way of sneaking in, going down into the basement and taking pictures of all the stuff that's down there, which is all storage from when it was a school.
Because he couldn't get rid of anything.
Couldn't get rid of anything. So the reason why he is hell-bent on the Institute having something to do with Billy's disappearance is, one, it happened the day before, or they were exploring that area the day before he was abducted, and you find out that somebody from the Institute stopped them from, like, they interacted with somebody from the Institute. The day before Billy goes missing, they found a mausoleum that was just off of the school's like property, and the one guy, what's his name?
Ragesh.
Ragesh. He basically tells him to go into the mausoleum, and then so Ethan and Billy go in, and then he shuts the door, and they get stuck.
My God.
So they're
Gotta love it.
So they're stuck in this mausoleum. Ashley, the babysitter, is able to unlock it and get it open, but they can't slip through the bars. Ethan can, but Billy can't.
Oh my God.
So Billy can't get out, and somebody from the Institute is coming and saying, "I told you not to come back here." So Ethan's trying to get him out of the bars and can't, so he leaves. And the last thing he hears is him saying, "Don't leave me."
Yeah.
So then that night, they have their sleepover, and Billy and Ethan do not talk to each other because they're mad at each other.
Oh my gosh.
So then Billy goes missing, and then this whole mystery is
And then you
is
never
left.
get to sleep again.
Okay.
Not through
So
the night.
no. So I know you're reading it.
I'm in the middle.
I know
Yeah.
you got to a certain point, and what he finds in the basement
Yeah,
is
I'm not there yet.
fascinating. So this is, and the way this story
Don't go
is,
in the basement,
Clearly.
people.
Never.
I know. But that's where all the answers are.
That's where all the monsters hide.
This one is just so good, and the way it's written, it's like you gasp at the end of every chapter. You're like, what else is going to happen? And it drives me nuts because you want to continue with the present day story,
And then you
keeps
go
going back. And I'm like, I don't care.
But
I
then you
know
want to
what happens.
continue with that story too, and then it flips
know.
back to the present. You're like, ugh.
So it's very edge of your seat the whole
Yeah.
time. It's so well done. And the
Yeah.
reason why I am doing this for a YA book club, it does have, I think, new adult appeal. It definitely does, especially because they're kids. In the way that, like, Stephen King's It can be considered for
that's fair. That's fair.
older teens.
Yeah.
Because it's a kid's story as well as the adult story. I'm not recommending it to a teenager, just putting that out there.
Yeah.
But I think the other one that this book reminded me of was The Institute, also by Stephen King, where that was like a school for gifted kids, but that was very Stranger Things-esque, where like they kidnapped the kids and kept them there for testing.
It's a school that
yeah.
you can never leave. You've been
yeah.
kidnapped. Yeah.
But this one, it's really very well done. So yeah, that's definitely my recommendation for this one.
Perfect holiday October read.
Yeah,
in November.
In November.
In November.
That's all right. You
It's
know,
okay.
you're in the mood already,
Yeah,
so
of
just let it
course.
continue.
Of course.
It'll get you all set for Thanksgiving.
And family.
And family.
And
Oh,
reunions
gosh.
and whatnot.
Turning our wheels over to Brittin now.
All right.
Another
So,
ominous book.
yeah. I read the new Maureen Johnson. Death at Morning House. If you like Maureen Johnson, you will love this. It's not Stevie Bell. It's different than the Truly Devious series, but it has a lot of similarities.
Okay.
Especially like the two plot lines and a young female with a penchant for figuring out mysteries and such. So Marlo, who I love, we'll get to that later. Marlo's finally got a date with the love of her life. She's bought like special candles. She's got
Oh, you have to have the special candles.
It's because Akila mentioned she loves the smell of petrichor, again, with the words I cannot pronounce. Petrichor, right? Okay, I'm getting the nod on that one. Sure. So they're at the cabin that she sort of house sits for, and of course the petrichor candle explodes and basically burns down the cabin.
Oh my God.
So now Marlo needs to hide for the summer, or better yet, she gets an offer to go live and work at the Morning House, which is a 1920s mansion from a very eccentric doctor, Dr. Ralston. The last minute invitation is a wonderful gift to her because she's got to get out of town, but that tragic past is kind of no longer in the past. It's kind of continuing. So the Morning House. Morning House is from the 1920s. It's Dr. Ralston. He had 7 kids, I think. The first 6 of them he adopted when he was working as a doctor in England during World War II. All of them were born in the same year. So the first 6 kids are all the same age. More than a decade later, he meets a woman, falls in love. They have the 7th child, who is obviously like a dozen years or so younger. He's regimented and strict, no meat, no alcohol, no caffeine, no sugar. We all exercise as a family. And this is their summer home. So, summer breakfast at 8, an hour and a half of exercise together. And then you have to pursue your particular gifts. All of them are gifted. He's like creating a master race, or trying to. He's a eugenicist. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
So Max, the youngest one, doesn't quite fit the mold. And the tragic past, and we find this out, there's no spoilers, Max drowns when he's 4. And the same day, one of the older siblings, a couple of people witness her, it looks like maybe dancing off the roof, and she dies. So the family leaves, they close down, they abandon Morning House. Fast forward a century, and a company's bought it. They've got one summer where they're going to let people come tour Morning House. And so Marlo's got a job as a tour guide. She arrives and discovers that she's a replacement. Everybody there, she's an outsider because everybody there knows each other. They're friends. They all decided to work there together. But one of them died, and she's the replacement. Is the Morning House cursed? And
Wow.
So I'm loving the book. I love the story in the past. I mean, this doctor is really quite an interesting sort of evil mastermind. You don't get his perspective, but you get various children. Not Max, but the other kids. Then we flash forward, much like what you were saying with Middle of the Night. We're bouncing back to the new tragedies unfolding in the present day with Marlo. Really love the kids in the 1920s story, and Marlo's amazing. She's very self-deprecating. She's neurotic. She's very like deadpan humor. She has a smart car that she inherited from her grandparents, and she talks about, putting down the road at 21 miles an hour. I found her very endearing, and, you're kind of cringing at all the things that are happening to her. I thought it was great storyline, great cast of characters, good mystery, good Maureen Johnson kind of stuff.
Love it.
So,
Love it.
yeah.
I love her stuff. So, I mean, I needed to take a break from Stevie Bell for a little bit. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll hop in
Yeah.
and read this one.
Yeah.
So switching gears, sorry, I did not get the memo to read a horror.
We're a month behind anyway. We should have been
true.
reading these.
Yeah.
Although Ashley and I read a lot of
Yeah, I was
them
gonna say,
a lot of the
I
time.
know. Yeah, that's kind of like
It's
both
Christmas
of your
time,
Emma.
and I'm like,
Murder. Anyways, I decided to BookTok, or
Book
fast
talk?
forwarding this
talk.
talk,
Not talk.
not talk. Love Off the Record by Samantha Markum. So this is your classic enemies to lovers academic rival story. Stop rolling your eyes, Ashley.
I didn't. No eye rolling. None.
She did tell me. I can see Ashley rolling her eyes.
Just gonna find a spot and stare at it.
So I picked a completely different genre here. So our main character is Wynn, and she is a freshman in college, and she wants to be a reporter. Like, she wants to be in the newspaper, and she really wants this position to be on top. But there is her rival, who is, oddly enough, his name is Three, like literally Three. And they're both freshmen. They're both determined.
Ashley rolled her eyes. I saw it.
I'm really trying hard not to look at her when I'm doing this. But anyways, so
No, it sounds really good.
so basically, please do not.
It is good.
Let yourself get influenced by Ashley's opinion about rom-coms.
I mean, if you don't
You
like
know.
rom-coms, this one's not the book for you.
Exactly. But if you are, keep listening. So basically, what they have to do now is basically compete against each other, trying to kind of get the spot that they both want. But they're both kind of messed up and trying to ruin and steal each other's stories. So it's really
They'll
great.
stop at nothing.
Pretty much. And basically, they kind of discover a whole kind of really perfect story about a dating app and this mystery thing with it. And there's like a whole drug related issue. It's intense. Like there's lot
lots going on in this college.
There is. And they are at the heart of it. They're trying to solve the mystery as well as figure out where they belong. Now, as to why I decided to BookTok this book, because I really felt that this character, Wynn, was very genuine. I haven't read a character in a while which I feel like she's true to like her insecurities, all her like little hitches, and she's not afraid to own up to like her mistakes and to her kind of sabotaging herself a little bit. And the chemistry between them. Like, have you ever saw or read The Hating Game? So, like, classic, just the banter is on point. And it wasn't, like, cheesy and corny. Like, you clearly saw the enemies to friend trope happening, unfolding before your eyes. However, like, it felt very true to, like, what was happening at the same time, where I feel like sometimes it gets a little like convoluted and you're just like,
Right.
really? Do they really like each other that much? Like, give me a break. I didn't eye roll at all reading this. But that's not to say it wasn't a good read. It's very quick, very like just light enemies to lover rom-com book, if that's what you're feeling. But I do highly recommend. Apparently there is a origin story of Three. There's like, she wrote another book before. I haven't read it, but if you are interested, apparently they talk about how he becomes the person that he is.
How
in this
he
book.
becomes Three.
Yes.
But I read this one too, and I really liked sort of the backstory of both of them.
Yeah.
Because Three is called Three because he's the third, something the third.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of familial pressure
Absolutely.
on him. And then Wynn's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Wynn she says fat.
Yeah.
But she's very body positive, but at the same time,
She knows like her insecurities are
Right.
there.
Right.
And like, she's not afraid to like come out and say it. But like, what I love most about it is Three's support of her. Like,
Right.
basically there was like a scene where she says like, no, it's okay. Like, and he's like, no, it's not. Like,
Right.
you're invalidating what you're feeling by saying it's okay. And I felt like, wow, that's perfectly said. Touche, sir. So again, really, really well done. I think, again, the chemistry was there. I love witty banter, and it's a great book for, kids who are starting college. Like I felt like it's a nice transition.
She's trying to meet friends
Right.
and
what it's like, and it's like being the odd duck out, right? You don't really fit in, but you find your people. So it's great. All right, Rosa, your turn.
Okay, so mine is Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas. If you've read her debut, The Hacienda, that one's usually compared to Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. That one is also, she specializes in like Gothic horror, but this one is like, this is a new genre for me because this is a Gothic Western. So
wait a minute. Let me wrap my brain. I'm trying to. Sorry, Gothic Western. Okay.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It seems to be an emerging like subgenre because Victor Laval came out with like a Gothic Western too, and so this one, of course, is about vampires, but in the Texas, Mexico area. So we start off in the 1840s, where we have two childhood best friends, Nestor and Nena. Nena is the daughter of a rich landowner, and Nestor is like the son of a servant. And one night they sneak off because they're not really allowed to play with each other. And Nena is attacked by something monstrous. And Nestor, which runs away and to get help, and then he believes that Nena died. So he runs away that night, basically.
Spoiler.
She's not.
Notice she said he believes.
Yeah, he believes.
died.
So he basically wanders like for the next 10 years, just getting work wherever he can. Basically, he's a cowboy for hire. And
Sorry.
yeah,
Ashley's eyes are like falling out.
it works though because this one. So when the war between the U.S. and the Mexico sparks off, he returns to the hacienda where he finds out Nena is actually alive, and he had been beating himself up for like 9 years over her death for nothing.
But why wouldn't you go back and check on her?
I think also because the father basically like told him to like leave.
Get out. Yeah.
Because they also thought she was dying.
I got it.
When they retrieved her body. And so for the past 9 years, Nana had stayed in her family's estate. She'd been trained to be a curandera, which is, I believe, sort of like a healer, a mystic healer in Mexican culture. I don't think that's the correct, accurate definition, but that's around the area. Right. So basically, when they meet again, sparks fly, but Nena is called to the front to help with healing and the soldiers who have been wounded, and Nestor has to go with her as a bodyguard. And along the way, they have to deal with like some unresolved issues between them. Mm-hmm. And they find out that the American army had been experimenting and using vampires
Of course,
for their army. And
you got
that might
vampires,
be,
though.
yeah,
I do.
That might be the mystery.
Get like the not Deathless Divide. What's the first one? The Ireland, just
Dread Nation.
Dread Nation. Yeah.
So good.
It's right? Zombies.
Yeah.
That's zombies in the Civil War. So now we've got the
vampires.
Yeah.
And these vampires are not like the sexy like love interest. These are like monstrous. Yeah. They have like they just want to eat and
killer
like,
Bella.
Yeah, no, not like that. They are terrifying, and it's great. It's great. I haven't seen vampires like this in a while.
Awesome.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Not the glittering type. Got it. No,
and the cowboy aspect was fun. Actually, like I don't read westerns, but this one was like, okay, this.
No,
is
about westerns. You know, I kind of poked fun when you were talking about the Western Gothic, but Mexican Gothic does kind of fit that. Like I can see, and that was really good.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like that one.
I love that one.
Very creeped out by it. You would like it too.
I know I would. I just, as soon as you said cowboys and vampires, I was like, this is just Tombstone with vampires. Like, I can't wrap my head around. But it sounds great. It sounds really
I love
cool.
that. Like the Gothic writers are experimenting with a lot of like genre mashups. There's like mermaid Gothic. There's like desert Gothic at this point. Like it's just been a really fun playground for them.
I also like going back to an actual, like a real monster as a vampire.
Yes,
and not like,
same.
I don't know. I
Not
just
like a superhuman sparkly boy.
yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we were just saying.
I like the superhuman sparkly
Listen,
boy story.
We all do. There was a point in all our lives that we broke down and we all read that book. I mean, seriously. But,
But no, this, I like to see that it's going
You ladies
back.
are just getting to the point. Now, that came out when I was like middle-aged housewife, mom. That was just, I mean, my sister-in-law called it like 400 pages of foreplay. It was just, it was, the guilty pleasure on the side. And teens were reading it, but a lot of, I think,
Adults.
30, 40-something
I'm not
women.
gonna lie, I watch it sometimes. Like, sometimes you
Oh,
just
no,
need
no,
a
no,
background.
don't watch it. No, those,
come
they
on.
made it so
Kristen Stewart, it's amazing.
No.
Background noise.
No. I was so excited to go see Twilight when it hit the movie theaters, and it was so
It's
bad.
Such problematic.
It was
it's
like
such
they
a problematic
purposely
book.
made it.
Like it's just so bad. There's just so many
The
red
soundtrack
flags.
was so good. I was so mad that such a good
It
soundtrack was.
was.
wasted on
It was,
that.
yeah. We all have feelings,
I
clearly.
Never read it. And
Ashley's
read it.
entire head is
Stand
rolling
strong.
now.
Oh,
It's not just your eyes
I'm on the
rolling.
floor.
I'm not gonna lie to you. You're not missing anything.
No, I
It is
remember
a good story.
my sister-in-law was like, you gotta watch this with me.
No.
And we got maybe 3 minutes into it, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Are you kidding?
You
And
know
then
from
that was
the
it.
blue filter from
That
the
was it,
first
yeah.
Yeah.
frame.
And I couldn't get back. I couldn't get into the way she wrote, like in fragments. I was like, oh my god, there's no flow to this book, and that was it. I gave up. So I never read them. Never fell into the hype. I do like
Sorry,
the bad
Stephanie
lip
Meyer.
readings. They're great. If you
You
look
do
up
like
if
the
you-
what?
the bad lip readings of
They're
the Twilight
yes,
movies are
yes.
so good.
They're
Bad
fantastic.
lip readings in general are
They're
very funny.
fantastic.
All right. Well, let's switch gears.
Oh, I think we already did.
I think
Let's
so.
switch back.
Let's switch back to another gear for our topic, and it is how has BookTok and social media influenced the books that are being published? So for folks at home who don't know what BookTok is short form for Book TikTok. Basically came into existence when the TikTok world and the book world collided, and it basically refers to a community of readers and authors passionate about literature, and they basically just use this hashtag to kind of get readers to read their books or to push their titles. How do we feel about this?
I know Ashley's got steam coming out of her ears here, but what I want to know, I'm not on TikTok.
Okay.
So when you say book talk, I think Bookstagram.
Okay.
Because I do follow a lot of
It's
Instagram
kind of the same
accounts.
thing.
Yeah.
What are we doing right here?
This is
if
a
it's not some form
This is
of
a
book talk.
podcast.
Oh, it's a podcast. So this is a long form.
Yes.
A long form
Yes.
recording of people trying to get other people to read their books.
Exactly.
Yes. And it's
So before we get into how terrible book talk is,
We're kind of doing
physician, heal thyself here.
to answer your question, and the way I look at it is no one's paying us
Yes,
to talk
that's
about
true.
these
Yes.
books. That's where my biggest gripe is.
Yeah.
It's like it could be trash, and you're still going to hype it up like it's the greatest thing you've ever read because you're getting paid for it.
Absolutely.
So as the consumer, you're not getting an accurate depiction of whether this book is worthwhile or not.
Gotcha.
Right.
That's my biggest. I
Okay.
feel like it's way too swayed towards whoever's paying the most is going to.
And I don't want to toot our horn here, Brittin, but we're like professionals.
Librarians.
We're like librarians.
I mean, toot.
Does anybody out there know we needed an advanced degree to be a librarian?
I mean, I don't know about you, but I read a lot. So. But clearly, there is a market, and people do. I have tons of teens that come to the desk and like, Miss Justin, I saw this on TikTok. Like, is it any good? And I'm like,
Well, I've been buying some of it.
Yeah.
I've been buying some of it.
And you know what? Some of it is great. Well, others are just like, there's something better. There's
Right.
something better I could put in your hands. So that's how I feel about that.
But can we go back to the any reading is good reading? I mean, if you've got
fair.
kids
That's
who
fair.
are not necessarily, or adults who are not necessarily going to be reading, and somebody's pushing Twilight or some other fun story.
Why are we going back to this?
Okay, the
Because I feel
entire
like
the entire
Twilight-
intro and push for this
gonna be
episode's
about
got to
need
be
some
the
Twilight
intro to
framing.
Twilight. Okay, Olivia,
Put a glitter
I hope you're
filter
taking
on
notes.
No, but I mean, I do feel like it kind of fits the mold in that it was wildly popular, read by a ton of people who weren't necessarily readers, and not exactly the best writing in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
But
right.
it was a fun story.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we want to talk
Borderline
about,
racist.
well, there's that too.
Oh, it really was.
So.
What's the one with the Hannah Grace, the ice? What are you saying over there from the Peanut Gallery?
I thought.
No, I don't know what you said. I couldn't hear you.
I don't know what you're
Hannah
talking
Grace
about.
wrote the ice skating one where she's a figure skater and he's a hockey, and it became hugely popular because of BookTok.
Now there's that hockey romance.
Yeah,
trend
it's a big
going
thing.
on.
Is it Icebreaker?
Yeah,
Icebreaker.
Icebreaker.
Yeah,
And
Icebreaker.
they did amazingly funny videos of hockey players,
Right.
professional and college male
Right.
players.
Right.
Go read page 287. You know, that sort of a thing.
Right.
People are reading.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Right.
No, there's definitely, I think that's probably the only upside to that is it gets people reading, whether it's good reading or not.
Right.
It's, it's serving its purpose.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that, and I feel like BookTok has been around for a while now that you can almost pinpoint which one is a legitimately good recommendation and which
Right.
one is totally just for the ads.
Right.
Like I think about Circe. That book went huge on BookTok, and it's a very good book. And I think that was one that it's been around for a while. It wasn't like it was a
Yeah.
brand new book.
Right.
So these stories that kind of come out of the woodworks and all of a sudden are hugely popular, that I usually take that more seriously. Like, oh, they found like a hidden treasure here,
Right.
and they're bringing attention to it.
Right.
Versus these other ones that are just churning out left and right that are about like demons in a bakery.
I
Like,
mean,
what?
but also, Colleen Hoover, like she
I know.
capitalized on this so much with her books. And granted, I gave in and I read a book. Did I think it was the best thing out there? Absolutely not. I personally felt that, yeah, there's definitely an audience, but there was just so many problems.
Which
So
one?
many-
Which one did you read?
It ends with us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Bless
So
you.
I know it was a tough read, especially but I think
I still haven't read that one.
there is I don't know. There's just something about books with domestic violence that I feel like you have to do it. You have to do it justice.
Yeah.
And I just kind of felt like it fell a little short
Well,
when it comes to that.
It didn't help that the movie publicity was
Oh, it was
horrendous for it.
garbage.
So,
Garbage. Made me look at Blake Lively in a totally different light.
she doesn't have a whole lot going on between the years, I don't think. So,
Ouch. Damn, we just lost
my-
half our listeners.
I feel like the internet's very mad at her
Yeah.
Right now,
because
yeah.
of the way she handled the whole
No, of
It Ends With Us.
Of course.
But I don't know. I feel like another thing that I've noticed, and this is very true with online stuff, is like if you have an interest, like on Instagram, if you like a certain page, that's what like becomes all of your book recommendations.
Yeah.
Like I almost hate the fact that I like Gilmore Girls because man, the book recommendations that are being sent to me, I'm like, oh man, like I would never in a million years
Yeah.
read this story.
Yeah.
And it's like stuff that you can find for free on like the Kindle store.
Yeah.
Like those are the kinds of books that are getting
the hype.
all the hype.
The hype. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not. There are good stories to be found, but I feel like they're not as common as they make it out to be.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment. Any last thoughts, Rosa? Do you have any? You've been quiet this whole time.
Rosa's our biggest reader, so she would know.
The thing with Book Talk is like I think the idea is brilliant. Like I love the idea of having a platform to discuss, books and literature. But as with most social media, platforms, I think it's become a place of performance instead. All the quote unquote reading is performative, and you see there's like a huge number of TikToks where like quote unquote readers, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to gatekeep, but quote unquote readers will like show you a book and they're like, if it's like this much text, I don't read it. I just skip to the dialogue. And it's like,
Why?
do you actually like reading? Like,
Yeah.
So it's become like hauls, which is actually nice for like the authors because they depend on like sales, but like they do hauls and then you just don't see these books anymore after that. It's like,
That's true.
Right.
it's just become sort of like, oh, these people who have nothing going on in their lives making reading their personality. You know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sorry if you're a book talker.
We have
No,
opinions.
but in all honesty, no hating on our part. I mean, you do what you got to do, and you talk all the books that you're getting paid to talk about. But
I'm still going to stick with the, some reading is better than no reading.
no, that's fair.
And
That's a
I'd
fair
rather people be buying or borrowing books that, as you're saying, I don't want to gatekeep. If it's not something I would read, I mean, if Ashley was a gatekeeper, we'd never have any romance.
That is why we have such a unique, varied books around here, so that we all get a little bit of something for our audience.
Right.
Well, I think to that point, I completely agree. All reading, I think, is good reading. But you have to actually read it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I think that's where my issue really, it's with the money element of it, but I feel like they're just like, just talk this up and we'll give you this amount of money. But they don't even read it. And it's like, at least read it. And I would almost rather, all publicity is good publicity, right? So if you really feel like this book is not good, I would love to get a book talker be like, this is garbage, you should read it.
Yeah.
I would read that if it was
Yeah.
bad. You know, like it's all publicity is like, I want an honest opinion. I don't want something that I paid
opposite.
for.
Right.
Exactly.
I like that. All right.
It's kind of like this generation's blurbs, right?
Yeah. No, that's a fair. That's
Used
a fair
to
thing to
blurb a
say.
book, and it was like, oh.
But how else are you going to get, like, other than,
Right.
like, listening to podcasts or like,
Right.
coming to the library and talking to a librarian who's read it? Like, how else are you going to get, you know, the latest?
Right.
There's so many times that I've gotten, like, teen requests saying, like, my friend recommended this
Right.
book to me, or they saw this on their For You page, and their, what is it about? Like, I get that all the time. Like, literally, I had, like, 3 of that on Saturday.
Right.
But again, it's I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think, we're obviously getting paid to be librarians, but like we're doing, like, we're reading, like we're curating through list and making sure that, like, the books that we are, recommending, even today, I went back and forth between the 2 books that I wanted to talk about because I felt like I liked this a little bit better than my second choice.
Right.
So again, like, there is that.
There is no monetary sway, though.
Yeah.
It's based
Right.
on true recommendation. It's not based on they're
Right.
paying me to do this.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and one thing about the BookTok, the way it popularized like consuming stories as content rather than like something to be engaged with. It's just sort of like read it, talk about it, then you're done.
Right.
And then there's sort of like, it's been the way these books are marketed are like reduced to tropes. So you just have like a list of tropes. It's just like, this is enemies to lovers. This is for like grumpy sunshine. This is female rage. And like, and it's just like, okay, but what is it about?
Yeah.
But
What's
that's
the
always
story?
been the case. I mean, back when I was in publishing and selling, I was a sales rep and I was selling to the accounts like library distributors, but also some of the chains. We would have a 1 or 2 line description of the book. And I mean, I was doing this in the late 1990s into the early 2000s, and it's Harry Potter but set in blah. It's Harry Potter but set in blah. And so we were doing it. That's 20-something years ago.
Yeah.
It just wasn't necessarily to the public. It was within the industry so that you would know.
Right.
I could try to convince my buyer to buy enough of it so that at Barnes & Noble, when the reader walked in, there would be a face out.
Right.
Yeah, but again, when you have teens and little ones coming to you, I'm looking for blah, blah, blah. Oh, if you like that, you're going to love this. And this is why. Like we go beyond that one-liner. You know what I mean? We're able to because like we actually took the time and read it. So I think that's the biggest biggest difference with that.
There is a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like that thought that it's not about consuming, it's about engaging with. And I think that that's the difference between a content consumer and a reader.
Right.
I feel like a reader, you get lost in the story. A content creator or, influencer, you're just looking to redistribute,
Right.
Cool.
So it's their loss.
Yeah. Well, on
Not
that
ours.
on that note, all right, I think that's it for us today.
Love you, book talkers. Sorry.
Keep doing what you're doing.
No disrespect.
Alrighty. All right, thank you guys for joining me, and we will be back again in December. Thanks. I forgot what month we were in.
What month is it?
The All Booked podcast is written, directed, and hosted by Justin, Rosa, Ashley, and Brittin, and produced and edited by Olivia Esteban. All Booked is produced by the Ridgewood Public Library. Please consider subscribing and sharing with friends, and follow us on Facebook. You can find links to the books we talked about today in the description. Thanks for listening, and keep reading.